I guess. Good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's all right. A roll call. Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Here.
Mrs. Gelbaugh.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Birthday girl, Mrs. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. York.
Here. All
right, everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah.
Any questions on the minutes?
There was just one thing when, okay, so page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we were talking about the South 80, when I mentioned about increasing fees, it was for non-residents. So if we just add that clarification in there.
Okay.
So fourth paragraph down, Mr. Bartlett liked the idea, blah, blah, blah. So it was increasing the fees for the South 80 garden plots for non-residents.
Is that gonna be an amendment, or are we just gonna?
Yes, we need a motion second to amend and then a motion second to accept.
All right. A motion and a second to amend.
So move.
Second.
Second. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we'll amend that. And a motion and a second to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Yeah, aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we'll go with those minutes. All right, in communications, we have Assistant Fire Chief Copeland's report. Any questions regarding that? If not, or if you do, we'll contact the chief. We have a letter here from, or a communication from a Cassandra, I'm not even going to make a stab at that last name. And I see that Chris is not here tonight to explain that. Does everybody understand this? Do you know what this is? We're
I
gonna
don't think anybody understands this.
understand it. I know I didn't, because I called up earlier today to,
I talked to Chris, and he said that it is a precipitory legislation to allow them to take care of the signs along Route 50.
Like this, any of the
The s-
signs,
the s-
or?
The street signs, that, the mandatory signs. I recommended to him, that we could at least have the first reading, and then he would be present at the next meeting, and we could still pass it then on the emergency, because they need to have the legislation in effect by the beginning of June.
okay,
If
so we,
there's- If there's questions, you can reach out to him,
Okay.
we would just have then the
could
first reading tonight, not do the emergency,
if that's what
and then
council
answer
wants to do.
questions next
Yeah,
time.
Next
I would
meeting, that's
prefer
a
to,
good-
because
that's
To do it that
I
way?
followed the link and I still couldn't find it.
Yeah, I tried to look it up as well. I tried to look the map up, and I couldn't get that to be satisfactory. All right, we'll do it that way. All right, do you have the Eli's report? Questions about that, you can direct them to her. The necessary,
We'll have a
or Tony, sorry.
on that
Didn't mean to-
later tonight, but basically it's just the legislation we passed a couple weeks ago had the wrong fund in it for the streets, so we're removing that. And then, needed to do a couple supplemental items because we didn't budget enough.
Yeah,
Beginning of the
yeah.
year, and then we're advancing a couple funds because funds come in monthly from the state for the gas and the PMVL, so we had to fund it ahead of time because the PO that we got from KJ Muir is a lot higher than what we have in there currently. So
Yeah.
that's about it.
Okay, all right. All right, then it looks like Dr. Lewis and, who'd you meet with? Who else?
Okay, so this is in response to the item under committee as a whole, municipal building renovations additions, that came up when we were discussing the mini pumper. So I met with Chief Hines and Chief Copeland, and we went over the items on the list. And then subsequently, we met with Tim Wiley, who had come up with that list of recommendations, or really more observations than recommendations. And his letter, I can read it if you want to, I guess I will. This memo is follow-up to Marymont's Fire EMS Resident Committee tour of our fire station in August 2021. Following that tour, I put together a list of observations based on my experience with fire station design and national fire station design standards. In general, the items listed could only be addressed with a major renovation addition or with construction of a new firehouse. Given the space limitations of the current facility, the observations noted could not be addressed without additional square footage. Given the age and layout of the building, if any improvements are considered, it would be most advantageous to the village to consider all departments in the building and their departmental needs with any future renovation addition planning. There was, however, one exception, and that is regarding the ventilation. We sat down, Copeland and Chief Hines and I discussed that we would like to seek a grant for what's called a poly-vent. However, those grants are not regularly, they're not like a yearly grant. They're the fire EMS, and you can help jump in here, Rick, if you want to, are cyclical, so they might one year be all safety concern. They might be all 1 year equipment concern. So Rick is working with a counterpart in another municipality to keep an eye out for that grant, and as soon as it becomes available, to get their aid in discussing, or in writing it up. So,
Did Tim have any idea about what that might cost for, did he say, or? The ventilation, just the ventilation part.
no,
yeah.
the ventilation would be $100,000 if we bought it.
And it's about a 10, I think the last time the grant was obtained, I believe it was a 10% match. Of course, it could be different when it comes up again. It may not come up this year, it may be next year before it comes
Sure.
up again. But as soon as it does, then we're going to go out for it.
Okay, good.
Marcy, did he express like some kind of a concern about the ventilation down there, given the size of
No,
the
it's
fire bay?
adequate
and-
and it's grandfathered in. It just could be improved.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of have flow-through ventilation in that, we have doors on both ends, and we do have a fan down. I think we actually have is it two fans, Chief?
Yeah, I asked him about that, and he said that, because we want to make sure there's no real concerns to our firefighters' health in the building or anybody else in the building. And he said there's no concern at all on that. Our equipment's newer, so it burns cleaner than the old stuff, and we never leave our equipment running inside the bay. The only time it's running is just to start it up and pull it out, and the doors are open when that happens. So there's no concern for any real issues there, but we are going to chase that grant when it comes available.
We don't have any kind of like monitoring, though, equipment, do we, out in the fire bay that would monitor CO2 levels or something that, or carbon monoxide levels, that if the truck were left running and the windows or doors were closed?
Well,
I know we don't do
I'm not aware
it.
of that, but
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Okay,
so.
yeah, I know we don't do that, but I'm just saying, okay.
So the report cited as a safety concern. What I'm hearing, though, is that upon further inspection, it is not a safety concern.
We wanted to make sure that we met with him to make sure that there wasn't
Okay.
a real concern.
It's not an immediate safety concern, is how I'd qualify it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And there are no immediate safety concerns for any,
That's correct. Tim said that there wasn't anything, once he toured the building and looked at everything. It's like any older building like this, they're not up to the standards that your newer buildings are now. But with this ventilation system, until we get a new facility or an expanded facility, this would be a good thing to add.
So he did tour the entire building, like
He
where
did.
where they reside too when they're
He did.
here? Okay,
Yep. He had before, and we took another tour when we met with him again.
okay.
Good work, Marcy. Good.
thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Chief Hines.
Very welcome.
Well, and if anybody has any additional questions or you want to follow up, Copeland will be more than happy to, answer questions. All right, permission to address council. All right, who would like to go first? If you stand up, please take the podium, state your name, your address, and
Podium in the middle.
Yeah, it's in.
The
you
podium,
got it?
Yeah, but just tell him.
can we get the podium in the middle? It's just really
sure,
hard
we can get the
to-
podium in the middle.
Bill, can you remind him about the 3 minutes? Remind him about the 3 minutes and tell him that I'll have the timer that'll go up. And that you forgot to bring the other one.
Leftover when we were spreading out for COVID. We'd have people here with their backs.
Gotcha.
Just as a reminder, as I said, please state your name, your
Brad
address,
Bowers.
And also, we're going to have to hold it to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I own some apartment units in Marymount for the last 40 years, or better put, it owns me. but it's still a nice business to be in, and it's a pleasure to be here in Marymount, this great community. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Thanks to some of my peers for being here. Thanks to Pat Crowley, Head of Government Affairs for the Cincinnati Apartment Association, to be here too. What can I say that I haven't said already? Back to the fact that it would be nice to be able to put these together, something together for common goals, state the common goals, state reasons why, and then come to a plan to accommodate and to accomplish the goals that we'd like to accomplish. Unfortunately, it hasn't come that way, and many of us are feeling that this is a heavy-handed, authoritative approach, not the approach that was before, but still we're kind of scratching our heads as to why we weren't brought into the mix to come up with this. First, I'd like to
But
say
you
with
were.
that. But
We had a public meeting following on February 10th, on February 11th. I sent
Yeah.
each of you an email with a
Yes.
checklist and asked for your input, and I received no responses.
Okay, I knew that was going to be your point, or I thought it was going to be your point. And I understand that. But there have been 15 years that council has had to put this together. And then we were blindsided with 3 days' notice, and not official notice. I heard about it through a back channel that this was going to be going on. And just a few days to prepare. And yes, some of the apartment building owners were happy with a few scraps of a few changes. Thank you for that. Thank you for the changes. I appreciate that. And the opportunity to. But in its entirety, the tone is not something that we agree with. Again, the entire thing we would like to have had input, not for just a few little tweaks here and there. So I understand that. But secondly, when I read this, and well, first of all, I got 2 files, one of which was, I think it said that this was the original ordinance, but it wasn't the original ordinance. It was a revised ordinance, and I think it made reference to it was the original ordinance, but it's not. It was one of the revisions, I think, somewhere along the way. And then the final ordinance, or chapter 152, which is going to be, I guess, discussed tonight. So I didn't understand that.
Could I just ask a quick
Sure,
question?
please.
Sorry. Do you know if the ordinance that you supplied as the old ordinance is the current ordinance?
Ed, I'm not sure when you old and new, because we had a lot
It's
of
'cause, we might
iterations
have
of
the
this.
the
I don't know
original
the answer to that.
revision, so I was just trying to clarify which one you got.
What I saw in this most recent email that was given to Mr. Crowley and then forwarded to us was some revision along the way that's been done, say, January, February. And then after that, the new ordinance would be to state this, and that was the second one.
Okay.
So it was kind of confusing because it was kind of, if that makes sense, it was confusing because it wasn't exactly what I thought. I thought we were going to compare the new ordinance to the old ordinance, which it's not.
It's
so.
a slippery slope.
Okay. Just makes it more
I
confusing.
don't know.
Sure, please.
Because here's what my understanding is, we have done many, many different iterations of this ordinance, and I understand that you apartment owners don't particularly like the fact that we have to implement it. I think you and I talked off the record as to why it's being done. It's not for the people that are here right now, because we know all of you people, and we know how well you maintain your properties. But here's the bottom line. We have the right to go in there. And what we did is Randy met with you. I know he had a committee meeting, and he talked about the changes to be made. So he and Ron Holloway they sent me the first iteration to prepare a new ordinance, okay, or a changed ordinance. And then what I was advised was that you brought up the Portsmouth case, which is certainly a good case that favors the apartment owners, where we didn't have the right to just go busting into your places and looking at them anytime we wanted to. So what I did is we researched what the Portsmouth case says, and we researched what other communities have done in order to comply with what the laws as set forth in Portsmouth. And so we think we've done that. And just talking with Mark here for 2 seconds on the way in, the ideal for you guys would be just don't have an ordinance at all, and that would be wonderful if we could do that. But we have to have some right to make sure that the citizens that are renting apartments in this community have the safety that they're entitled to, you know? And so we're trying to make it as accommodating as we can to you, and I don't know what more we can do to make it more accommodating, other than eliminating the ordinance altogether, Mark. And I just don't see how we can do that. But if you have suggestions, and I told Bill Brown this the other night, we had a long talk about this, we are always open to suggestions that the members of the community have to make our jobs better, to make your lives better. So we can always change it if you get us, and if you want to meet Randy, I'm sure I hate to speak for you.
Well,
'cause I know you're busy.
we don't want to be a burden. We appreciate, Brad, everything you've done and how you've taken care of our residents. We appreciate that. So, but we have to balance not being a burden to you with our responsibility to these renters, which research says there's 40% of renters. And you read, they're the most vulnerable part of our society. So we have an obligation to that. And I think that you guys have been terrific with it. We sent you the checklist. I think that the checklist is pretty innocuous. I think you'd look at it and agree. That we are charging you what it costs us. I figured it out, it's about $2.22 a month that it's gonna cost to get your inspections. So I'm open to what you're uncomfortable with.
Yep.
Because it is not our intent to be a burden. It is simply our intent to serve our renters. We respect and appreciate all of you that I know are doing in this village. We do not want to be a burden, but we have an obligation to these renters.
So research shows that approximately 40% of the populace or the housing units in Mariemont are rentals.
Yes, are not owner occupied. I think that's how they put it.
So also with research, we're wondering, where are complaints? Where is there research? Where's the science, I guess, is a buzzword sometimes.
Oh, man.
Where's the science that there have been problems? We know there have been problems, but let's see them. Let's see them so we can address them. Do you have anything?
It's my contention that we have the responsibility to know there are no problems.
Well,
We don't want to find out there's problems.
understand
We
that,
don't
but-
want to find out the hardware of those problems.
But
I don't
are
think you
there,
do either.
are there problems?
We-
Where
I
are
have
the
no
problems?
idea.
Bill, we had the gas leak, right, in that one
we had-
apartment? There was a gas leak, what was it, about a
Well,
year
there
or
was a
so
gas
ago?
leak, there were electrical issues, there were other things. The thing of it is, I think if you read the list, here, basically, if you were more or less, can check off these boxes on this, you can essentially have, what would be considered to be sort of a sidewalk inspection.
Right.
We wouldn't have to
Gotcha.
actually enter the apartment.
Gotcha.
Unless, of course, we get one of these, a complaint or one of the visual inspection or, the other things listed here, then of course we may wish to come in. But I would think that probably if you were to hit on one or two of these and we would wish to come in, obviously we would engage in the conversation with you first about it.
Right.
But ultimately, we have to be satisfied, as Mr. York has just said, we have to be satisfied that those, that those units are safe and in compliance with all known building codes.
The checklist is certainly understandable that you're referring to. I've looked at it, and it's not really that much different than the original one that the previous building inspectors have had to work with.
Sure.
And reasonable, okay? But I'm just looking at, this is a little hard for me to understand. First, I thought it might be me, the most recent revision. First, I thought it might be me. So then I asked some of my peers, and I asked some people that are a lot smarter than I am, and they're saying the same thing. This is a little bit hard to figure out. And in fact, if everyone here were to try to explain it, I would get a different answer from everyone in here. It's vague, it's ambiguous to me, again, and to many of us, it's not just me. To come up with this and to be voting on something that's so ambiguous that the owners, and again, everyone here, it's just like the tax law, I guess. The tax law, everybody's going to interpret it a little bit differently. And that's a problem that I have too, and that many of us have.
Well, I have to say, I don't entirely share your assessment of the ambiguity that's in this. I really don't see it as being that confusing. But let me suggest this. Should you have a question regarding, the application of this or how it might work, Rod Holloway would be more than happy, to explain it. Should it
Or
arise?
Ed,
that
in legalese.
Or Ed, from a
We just
legal
talked
point of
about
view.
that. I appreciate
I've even got a
that.
better suggestion. I don't want to take too much time because Randy's been working on this for so very long. But if you guys all want to go through the ordinance and let me know those things that you don't like or you don't agree with, other than the fact that it exists, because that's
Right.
something that's going to be done regardless of whether or not you like it or not. But we want to write it in a manner that's fair to you and that you understand. And I told you walking up here, I don't have all that pride of authorship on anything I wrote up. If you've got a better way or a better suggestion, I'm more than willing to listen to it.
Thank you.
So we got, in 2 weeks from now, we have our second reading of, is it 2 weeks? Or
Yep.
No, we'll have the second. It's just the first reading tonight. We're not voting on it tonight.
We have more discussion about it. This is typically the kind of discussion we have at the committee meeting itself, and maybe for one reason or another, not everyone was made aware of it, or not everyone showed up. But if you just let me know, and Randy, again, I hate to take up your time, but if you let Randy know what
We
you don't like.
we want to get this right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Rod as well,
Yeah, yeah.
Say again?
and Rod as well.
Oh,
Let him-
absolutely, yeah, yeah. We're more than willing to work with you. We had to put, the big complaint, here was my understanding, months ago, 3 months ago, was that everything you guys had agreed to was fine, except you didn't like our right to go storming into your house without your consent or without a search warrant. We've changed it for that, and now I think I'm hearing something else that you don't like about it, again, Mark, other than the existence of it, so.
Well, no, actually, okay, so 15 years ago when this first came up, we heard about it, and we didn't have a chance organically, and maybe that's why you have a much better understanding of it than I do, because you've seen it grow up.
Right.
I have not seen that grow up. And again, it's not just me that's having a problem putting this together. And if you remember, I think the first time around, when we discussed this, I had to ask point blank, are you planning on inspections of occupied units without, of course, a tenant saying, I need my place inspected? And that is understandable. And I had to ask that question. I shouldn't have had to ask that question. It should have been sort of right there. But none of us understood whether or not, so I'll ask that question now. Are there plans to have inspections of occupied units, except for the case, of course, where a tenant is requesting it?
Only if on this list, now this is not the inspection checklist, this would be the checklist that would trigger our desire to enter one of the units. And either, that could be hopefully voluntarily that you'd let us in or the tenant would let us in. And if not, this would be the criteria by which we would go and seek an administrative warrant to be allowed to come in and do it. And you can see it's kind of an extensive list. I mean, there'd have to be a lot of things here that would have to sort of happen before we would wish to enter one of the units.
Right.
Got it.
And I'll tell you too, from a practical standpoint, Brad, it's pretty difficult to get an administrative search warrant unless there is in fact some legitimate probable cause. It's not one of those things that a judge will rubber stamp right away, because they take your privacy rights every bit as seriously as you guys do. So I don't think this is as burdensome as you may think that it is. But if there are things in there that you think are particularly burdensome or that you simply cannot live with, call Randy or myself and we'll try to work something
Okay,
out that you agree
appreciate
with.
that.
We can vote the second. And Pat, if you, I don't know you, but I've heard your name many, many times. Oh, Jim Poston, my good friend Jim Poston. Okay. So, come and let us know. And if Pat, I know you guys had Kevin Brewer last time was your attorney. Kevin knows as much about this law as any lawyer in the whole county. So if Pat's worked with him or Pat knows about it, tell us what you want, and then we'll think about it and talk about it and try to make the changes. We're not
I appreciate that.
We're not real difficult guys to get along
I
with.
approve that. Nor are we.
Some of us
Nor
are.
are we, I think. Okay.
Well, and Brad, the other thing I kept thinking about, why are you guys so opposed to this? And I think part of it is you don't know in practice how this is going to be executed. I think that this body will give you a commitment. We don't want to be a burden. We're not here to get in your way. We are here simply to make sure our tenants are taken care of. So if in practice, when we implement this program, if it becomes a burden, we need to hear from you, and I'm sure we will. But that's not our intent. Again, we should be doing, every municipality should be doing this.
Yep.
And I'd also like to add.
Maybe not in this way,
We're
but
not
yes.
picking on you guys. I mean, we're, every meeting, we're discovering things in our code that are ambiguous, and we're just trying to get it better. Whether it comes to, things that have to do with the ARB, whether it has to do with the rental units, whether it has to do with our fencing, there's just, our code is somewhat obsolete. And
Well,
so it's not just you guys.
It can be hard to
That's my
understand in
point.
places. Yeah. I can assure you that one thing, and I know it's going to sound a little hollow, but as Ed was pointing out, all effort was made to try and for us to walk, as Mr. York is trying to point out, we're sort of tasked with having to walk a fine line between serving our residents, but being fair and equitable and just to you guys and not be onerous. And we have endeavored no end to do that. I probably don't want to believe me,
Yeah,
but
thank
I
you.
can
Oh, no,
assure you.
I understand that, but-
I can assure you, a lot of time has been spent trying to find that middle ground.
I'm afraid that so much time has been spent on it that it must go through. And where if we would have had a chance from the very beginning to discuss things, we might have been able to stick with the old plan, or maybe we would have come up with some new plan where some of the criteria was even harsher than this, in agreement. But it didn't work that way 15 years ago. It didn't work that way now. And I thought for sure when we first had a chance to speak, end of January, whenever it was, and we said we'd like to speak with you about coming up with methods of satisfying as many people as we can, that the housing in Mariemont, the rental housing, is to a quality and standard that it's safe for people. But we didn't get that. We got what we still see as, and thanks very much, of course, as far as working with us to this degree anyway, but we still don't understand. We're still scratching our heads as to why we weren't contacted where you could sit down together. And maybe after we'd be contacted and had a chance to talk about it, you guys would say, you guys are crazy, we still have to do this. Maybe you would, I don't know,
Yeah.
but we didn't get the opportunity.
Well, I know,
We didn't get the
to Mr.
respect.
York's, but to his defense, I mean, we held public meetings on this, and the public meetings were posted. I mean,
But
beyond
it was
that,
based,
I don't
it was
know.
based on what you already had, and it was a little bit of tweaking on what was already there, instead of starting fresh and saying, how can we do this? How can we accomplish these goals? That's how many
That's
of us look
understood,
at it.
but that's simply how, there's case law, and you kind of start with that and build. Now, was that the right or wrong way to do it? I don't think we figured we had to start from scratch. And again, Brad, to your point, we've got 3 readings over the next 6 weeks. If there are things that you are uncomfortable with, and if they're reasonable, I don't see any reason why we can't adapt this ordinance
Yeah,
to accommodate you.
We can make amendments while we're having the reading process.
Okay.
Well, the next meeting is the right time to do that.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
second
the
meeting.
second
Can I
reading.
ask-
Yep, yep.
It's just, I'm sorry, I'm not really aware, because I was not here when this all started and everything. What are you uncomfortable with? So what part of it,
I think that's what I'm suggesting them,
that
so
if
we
you
don't
would
take
let
up
us
too
know
much
what you're
time here
uncomfortable
tonight.
with, maybe we can come up
Call
with
me, call
solutions
Randy,
to
call
it.
Rod. I'll meet you anytime you want. I work
I appreciate
100
that.
hours a week, so whenever you want to meet, I'll meet you. And you tell me what you don't like, I'll discuss it with Randy and his committee, and we'll say if we can do that or we can't do that.
What if I
No
can't
problem.
afford your rate?
Please?
What if I can't afford your rate?
Well, who
You don't get
can?
charged.
Yeah, you don't get charged.
Everybody can afford my rate.
All right,
May I answer your
can we kind of move this
Because
along?
I did talk to Chad Osgood today, and one of the things that we had talked about this a little bit, and what we were talking about is there, when somebody does have a complaint, is there some way that can be written in? And I don't know this, and I apologize because I was not in
Sure,
on it at
that's
the
fair.
beginning. But is there something that the renter needs to let the owner know, and let the owner try and mitigate the problem before, and how many how much time
Right.
between when they make the first complaint does the owner have to fix it? And if the owner doesn't fix it at that time, what's the next step? So is there a way to do it so that there's like a timeline that if the renter has a problem, they call the owner, they tell them what it is, the owner doesn't get it done within 30 days, then the renter calls the village and says, I have a problem, they're not fixing it. And I'm not saying 30 days is the
Sure.
number, but would you be more comfortable with that, is that the renter has to make you aware first, and you have to be given the opportunity to fix it before it's taken to the village?
Possibly something
yeah.
along those
And
lines.
Well, that was we talked
did-
about
We
that.
did talk about that, so
Yeah.
maybe formalizing that process would be a good step.
Well,
Because again,
Because-
like we've all said, we don't want to be the first
Yeah,
line
that's the
of
last thing we
defense.
want to do.
That's
That's
the
the last
last
thing
thing
Rod
we
wants to
want.
do.
It's going to be a lot of administrative, I mean,
Right.
to
We don't
follow
wanna do
this
that.
here
It's
is,
not our-
and-
yeah,
and,
yep.
you know, I was going to ask that question, but that's not my issue. That's, that you're administrating.
Can
it
I
is your
suggest, I
issue.
mean, like, you know, we can't iron out every detail here tonight. Randy will, I mean, like I said, if you can formally write something down, we can have a discussion and his reconvene the committee kind of a thing. That's where these details should really be worked out.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if I may answer your question, please, and that is, you know, what about if the tenant has a pathway, and maybe a defined pathway for valid and sometimes not valid complaints, because believe it or not, in our business, sometimes we do meet with unreasonable people.
Sure.
And yes,
No.
but there is already a pathway, and that's through the Hamilton County, and people can put their rent in escrow, and people can never pay rent again if I don't fix certain problems. I've never had that happen to me, okay? So I can't tell you exactly how it works. But there is that. Now, you know, again, the problem, what's the big problem? And I'll make it quick, I'm sorry. The big problem, again, is why can't we just start and put this thing together with you? And maybe some of these things still be in there. But I'm afraid it's to the point now, there's so much work that's been done to it, it's got to go through.
Well, that's not true.
So,
Not
yeah, that's the
necessarily,
way I'm looking
yeah.
at it, and who knows, let's see how it goes, but there is a way. And if every tenant got a letter from the village and just said, or it said, here are your paths to making your landlord comply to being a good landlord, and contact the village, rent in escrow, things like that, and call us if you have any questions. That in and of itself would accomplish, I think, some of this.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
You really don't.
I just-
Again,
No,
again,
believe
again,
it or not,
Tell you.
okay, believe it or
These
not,
are details.
I'm telling
properties
you,
myself,
I have a
and you don't want
relationship,
that.
I have a relationship with my folks here. You know, I don't coddle them. I'm not the doorman too, okay? They don't have me on speed dial, but I have a good relationship with them. And, you know, they would call me first, or call your landlord first, maybe that's the path.
But that was the idea.
That's right.
Have you spoken to your landlord? Yes, no.
Randy, let's just.
Let's,
here we go.
we
Thank
need to
you.
move.
Get the
yeah, we
feedback
need-
in.
Yeah, thank you.
Feedback in.
Thank you.
I presume everyone else has deferred their 3 minutes to Brad, right?
All right.
You get 3
I'm
too?
re-
And the next
I'm
meeting's 3
really
minutes.
gonna insist. I'm sorry, you know, because we had a lot of interruptions here,
I'll only
but
take 3
please,
minutes.
please.
My name is Mark Temming, and my email address is marktemming@gmail.com if you want to write to me. Couple of things. Ed, I'd like to know what municipalities you modeled your new ordinance after. What Ohio municipalities? You said you had some samples
Yeah.
that you modeled. We'd like to know what they are, because we'd like to look at those. That's number one.
marktemming@gmail.com.
marktemming@gmail.com. My opinion is a marketplace is the best judge of the appropriateness of a rental unit. They like it, fine. And that pretty much polices us, the marketplace does. The ordinance that I've received, the new ordinance, is very vague, lots of questions. I'd like to write to you, Ed, email you, say, hey, what's about this, what about this, what about this, what about this? I'll give you an email, okay?
I'd love it if you would, all of
And
you.
then frequently asked questions. What happens if this happens? Okay, let's fill that out.
Okay.
That's about all I had to say. We'll communicate, because this ordinance, I know you added the warrant requirement,
Right.
but here's what's going to happen with me, for example. You're going to say, we want to inspect. I'm going to say, no, go get your warrant. You're not going to get one. And you say, may I come in? I'm going to say, no. So you're going to do a visual inspection, or whatever you do. That doesn't have a checklist. I've got a copy of the document you quoted in the ordinance. I've looked that over. It's quite extensive. But there are some ambiguities in this that are need to be cleared up if it lives, and if it lives, the litigation that's likely to follow survives that. But here's the other thing: we don't have any problem if tenants call you and say, "Hey, go look at my unit. Are things wrong?" I don't have any problem with that at all. I'm proud of the way I keep my place. If one of my tenants wants to complain, I'm fine with that. But for you to say, I'm going to come into your place as a condition of you being allowed to rent, I'm going to say no, and we're going to fight it. So thanks for your time.
All right.
But
Thank you.
write me, and
Okay.
we'll get on
Will
the
do. All right,
conversation.
thank you.
I had one really quick question of clarification. Do the standards and guidelines for apartment rental units, is it anywhat dependent on whether they're in a historically preserved area? I mean, does that factor into it, or are they kind of a standard boilerplate thing?
I don't think it's,
Does the historic district have anything to do with having these guidelines? I
yeah,
don't
I don't think
believe
it's
so.
called out for at all.
Okay.
It's all rental units across, we have to equally apply this across all rental units in the village,
Okay.
yeah.
Hi,
So,
I'm Dennis Hamilton. What do you want, my
Dennis.
email or my address, or what did you want?
well,
DJ Hamilton 68
that's
at
good,
hotmail.com?
that'll suffice, yes.
I think
Okay,
we've got it.
you're not planning on inspecting a rented unit, am I correct? Unless
mean
it's,
currently
there's a complaint
occupied?
or something? I mean, I've got a bunch of renters over there that they're like staying too long, in my opinion, you know, because they need to get out and I need to clean them up and raise the rents.
Right.
But are you planning on inspecting those units?
Well, it would be my understanding that we're planning on essentially restarting the clock, you know, the 3-year clock. And I don't know whether we've
Hey,
actually
you know
determined
what,
where that's gonna start.
You hear, I keep saying this over and over again. We're an open book here. We are an absolute open book. We listen to you. We hear you guys all the time. Rod Holloway, who I dealt with on this case, he told me he's got a plan. I don't know exactly what his plan is, but call Rod, our building administrator, and he'll share with you whatever his plan is. And then let us know. I mean, we're not trying to be
No,
onerous
I'm
or
just,
difficult
I'm
for you.
just asking that question. I mean, are you gonna?
I'm not sure what his plan is my answer. to
The
that.
plan
I
is
don't
to
know.
inspect all within the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Because the current,
I've got some gal that's been in there for 30 years. How are you gonna go there? Are you gonna knock on her door? Are you gonna call me? What are you gonna do?
he'll work through you
You'll go through me,
as much as possible.
and I'll call her and I'll say, hey, they want to inspect your unit. And that's up to you, lady, right? I mean, I'm not gonna force her to let
Correct.
you in, right?
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay, I mean, I don't care if you inspect it, as long as she says, yeah, come on in.
Well, I think we have a couple of options at that point.
I know there's a guy that's been over there for 40 years. He won't hardly let anybody in his place, but he's not my tenant, so. But I do have some long-termers. I just
Understood.
wondered what,
So
and
those when do you think the last time that those were inspected?
well, I've got a couple of people I inherited when I bought the buildings. I bought them in the 80s.
So they haven't been inspected since the 1980s.
No.
Do you think that's right?
I address all complaints. As soon as somebody calls, if I don't fix it myself, I call a service person.
Because that worries me.
I don't do HVAC, I don't do appliances, but I fix a lot of crap. So, that's the way it goes. But if there was something wrong, they'd be complaining to me.
Well, maybe, because not all people's, you know, sensitivity to complaining is the same. You know, some people have a much higher tolerance, they put up with a lot more. But I think a more direct answer to your question is if a unit, a rental unit, comes up in rotation to be inspected,
Oh, I understand that.
and they would trigger, you know, one of the items on this list as to why we would desire to come into the unit, obviously it would trigger a discussion first with you or the tenant. And if they didn't want to let us in, then that, of course, is going to move us along to the administrative warrant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, with you.
With you, yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
we're
like.
not gonna deal directly with the tenant. I mean, we would deal with you.
Oh, you're gonna file a warrant against me,
Well, no,
So
we're gonna
make-
bring,
No, no,
we're
no.
gonna bring you into the conversation.
huh?
Right.
We're gonna bring you into the conversation first.
Well, it's their leased space. I don't really even have a right to go in unless I give them notice of whatever.
No, but you, if you would agree that maybe you know, that it's reasonable that the village would like to do an inspection, you of course could get on the phone to your tenant and say, you know what, they're really not asking that much, would you please let them in?
Okay.
You could do that. You could help us.
Okay, why don't you help me?
We're trying to.
Okay. You've got a trash collection outfit whose motto is, "The customer is a necessary annoyance," okay? That's called Rumpke. They're like Time Warner or Spectrum or Duke, any of those companies. The customer is a necessary annoyance, okay? I can't get my lawn debris picked up, okay? Sometimes I haul it to another building in a different municipality, and it gets picked up. Sometimes it gets picked up by Rumpke. You know, I can haul all my lawn debris over to Norwood. Rumpke services Norwood, and the guy picks it all up. No problem, okay? I've been putting it out on Maple Street and on Chestnut. What we do is we trim the bushes. Do it a couple times a year, okay? Fill all these damn garbage cans, plastic cans, with lawn debris,
Okay.
and they skip me, and I call them up, and this gal on the phone says, oh, you got to put it in brown bags. I'm not going to fool around putting this stuff in brown bags. I mean, my time's worth something. What's the difference in a plastic garbage
Well,
can
sir,
that's clearly
those are
lawn debris?
Rumpke's rules. That's
Okay,
how we
if their
do
rules
it.
are rules, why am I taking it over to Murray Avenue, taking it over to Norwood?
I don't know, sir. I
I'm
don't know
supposed to
what-
haul all
right.
my damn lawn debris?
No, you can put it in a brown bag and Rumpke will pick it up.
I'm not going to put it in a brown bag.
Well,
That's 10 times the work.
Yeah, we actually, there are labels, there's even some downstairs, I believe, right now.
Right.
And you just get a sticker and you put the sticker on the plastic garbage, in the
Well,
plastic
it's gotta be
garbage
a
can.
bin, it can't be a plastic
No,
bag.
it has to be a plastic garbage,
Bin, right,
container.
right.
Like the garbage cans you have, are they labeled yard debris?
No.
So
Well,
that's
let's do
all you
that.
have to do
There's
is
stickers
label it
downstairs.
yard
Stickers.
debris.
Let's
Just
start with that.
label it. And like I said, there are stickers downstairs, I believe. They always have them outside.
Right as you're walking
On
down.
that
On that
At the bottom of
table.
the,
And just
Take a
put
ba-
that
okay,
on the
okay.
can.
Great.
And that should be it.
Okay.
They're on the table downstairs. no,
All right.
sir.
That's fine.
Or you can
They
spray
don't,
paint
they don't,
yard
re-
debris.
they don't require it in other places, but if they want it here, I'll do that. I got no problem with that.
Well, then you've met their requests, and then if they don't take care
Well,
of it, then
not the
we-
request from the girl on the phone that told me that it had to be in a brown paper bag.
all right, sir, can we, I think we get your point. We need to move on.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Rumpke sucks, that's all I can say.
For record. Contract's out for bid right now.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Crowley, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greater Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Apartment Association. Thanks for hearing us tonight. We would like the opportunity on behalf of the association, Solicitor McTeague, to submit something in writing to you, and then maybe we could sit down. If I understand the process right, there still could be time to consider changes, correct?
Absolutely.
And Randy has been great, and so has the mayor. We were notified about this meeting, so we appreciate it very much.
Pat, what's your email?
I'll give you my card before I walk out.
and I've got an email list of all.
Yeah,
Don't
we've
worry
got
about
a
that, I'll
list.
get it.
Okay, all right, and we'll just put something together, and then maybe we can sit down with you and Randy and Rod and hammer out. I know that
That'd be great.
the inspecting the occupied units is continue to be a concern among some of the memberships, so we
Okay.
can hash that out. So thank you very much.
Right, thank
Is
you.
that the big thing? Is that what this is all about?
I would say that's certainly
the
one of them.
biggest-
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That helps.
Sure.
That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And frankly,
Pat.
if you had been the first one to speak, we probably would be out of here right now, because that's what I offered early on. Let's do it, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
I've got
Anyone
two.
else?
Of course, and discussion is valuable, so it takes as much time as it takes.
Listen to you.
Karen Ketzel, 3865 Beach Street. So I'm going off in a kind of different direction on the inspections. I love this village. I've been here for 35 years. I love my property. I've had good tenants and I've had bad tenants. If you're so concerned about our tenants, then you need to step in when we have bad tenants. My concern is the whole village. We have a lot of, not a lot, but there are still some elderly people that have structures in this village that have never been updated. You know, I hear it in the sales that are going on, some houses that have not been updated since the 60s, since the 40s. So, you know, rather than focusing on our properties just because of the Blackburn building, which I'm sure is what spearheaded this whole thing, I would appreciate it if you would look globally in the village, because there are a lot of older homes with older people, and who's to say that they're safe? Who's to say that their electric is updated or the plumbing is updated? I can guarantee you in the last 35 years, I've updated everything in my building. Every time somebody moves out, I put in more electrical outlets. And I know not everyone does that, but I also live in the building. And I want my home of 5 units to be safe. And I would say most of the owners in this village feel the same way. We, no longer have Betty Blackburn. We do have a couple other owners, but I know them well enough to know they don't want anything to happen to their properties. We've spent a lot of money on these properties, even just purchasing them. The price to buy something in the village is so high right now. If you buy something here, you're going to take care of it. But I think, rather than focusing on the renters, we have the Ohio tenant landlord law that most people know about. Just as Brad said, rents can be escrowed. There are lots of other government entities that are protecting tenants as well as landlords. So if we're going to look at safety issues, I think we need to look at all of the properties or none of the properties. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
Oh, we got an ordinance first.
Utilities, any? You're good? All right.
Yes.
We have a supplemental ordinance, yes.
Yeah, all right. To supplement ordinance number O-9-22, annual appropriations ordinance.
All right, we had the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and allow for a second and third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
May we have the second
Yep.
reading?
To supplement ordinance number O-9-22, annual appropriations ordinance.
All right, any discussion? We all know what this is? We all good?
Yeah, we discussed it
All good?
earlier.
We
yeah.
discussed it,
Okay.
all right.
Third reading, to supplement ordinance number O-9-22, annual appropriations ordinance.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we'll move that. All right, motion to pay the bills. Any question regarding the bills? More or less straightforward this month, I think, or this week, I think. Nothing glaring stuck out here. Any questions? All right, not hearing it. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Well, at least let me call the name.
Very enthusiastic.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, we'll pay those bills. All right, I believe we have one report.
Yes, from the Health and Recreation Committee
Is it-
regarding
yes, from
tennis
the-
rates and capital needs. The Health and Recreation Committee met on Monday, March 28, 2022 at 4:30 PM. Present at the meeting were Health and Recreation Committee members Randy York, Chair, Susan Brown Knight, Vice Chair, and Mayor Bill Brown. Also in attendance were Council Member Rob Bartlett, Marymount Tennis Association members Linda Bartlett, Carter Kemper, and Kevin Taylor, and Marymount Pool Commission members Mandy Rohall and Terry Donovan. The committee reviewed the projected 2022 budget for the Marymount Tennis Association. The committee projects that the budget will generate an operational surplus of $10,000 to $15,000 for 2022. It is recommended that these excess funds be directed to a designated and named capital improvement fund for tennis. It is estimated that a long term of maintenance schedule would require a capital allocation of between $40,750 and $48,750 for the tennis courts. The tennis budget does not include any contribution from the Mariemont School District. The Mariemont School District uses the courts an estimated 17.4% of available court time, with women's tennis in the fall and men's tennis in the spring. Representative from the Health and Recreation Committee will schedule a meeting with the Mariemont School District in hopes of determining a fair and equity agreement on the sharing of longer-term court maintenance costs. The committee agreed that the current condition of the courts with significant raised cracks would need to be addressed this spring. The committee decided to only do a minor repair of the cracks this season with a repair/patch/and paint approach. There was no current bid for this scope of work, so the committee authorized the evaluation and selection between at least 2 bids for this work at a cost not to exceed $10,000. The committee reviewed the 2022 pool budget. The budget projected an operational deficit of $58,875 for 2022. The committee recommended reductions to reduce the overall budget from $191,145 to $175,145. The committee recommends the purchase of a replacement lap dividers for $3,200 and industrial refrigerator for $2,000. The committee recommends that the pool look into the use of the PNC credit card readers for snack bar purchases rather than utilizing the ESOF system. The committee recommends that the pool commission evaluate the efficiency of pool operations under Cincinnati Pool Management and evaluate memberships and attendance and open up the pool to residents outside of the village of Marymount. The additional memberships would be subject to an invitation from a current member at a premium rate to a resident membership. This would be a test for the 2022 season with limited memberships, respectively submitted and signed by Randy York, Chair, Susan Brown Knight, and Leah Gelbaugh. Get a signed copy.
All right, you've heard the report. A motion and a second to accept the report, please.
Can I get, okay, sorry, oh, go ahead.
You can have that.
I just want to make a distinction. I think it's implied, but the 40,750 to 48,750 is an annual figure?
Yes.
I mean, does it make sense to put that in there? Just because I mean, it doesn't really specify.
To amend the report?
To say.
Put
to-
annually.
It says
Annually.
annual.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
An annual.
It says, in the last sentence of the second paragraph, would require an allocation of between 40,750 to 48,750 annually for the tennis courts.
And that's right.
Is that correct?
Hmm?
Okay.
Oh,
I mean, it's implied, but I just wanted to be
oh, good
precise.
call.
Good call.
Thanks.
Can I just, and I signed it, so I apologize, but point of clarification. The, my understanding is that the capital allocation they got this year, whatever they didn't spend on the repairs, we would commit if we could, I mean, however we could do that legally to say, assuming we have the funds, commit that next year when, for the court repairs. That was, but that's not in here.
Yeah, well,
missed
we,
that.
I think we first have to do that, because right now, if it goes in permanent improvement, it just goes in permanent improvement. It's not
Okay.
named or designated.
Well, but I think there's an opportunity to name and designate it with some of that stuff. too.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, but I don't know if you really want to restrict stuff for certain purposes, because sometimes things come up and you need money.
Right.
So,
But you can carve it out.
but
and
you
then
can carve it out,
start
and I
the
guess
meeting-
you can move it out later if you wanted to, sure.
Yeah, you can always change it.
Okay.
It's not
All right.
locked and loaded.
Right,
Oh,
But
right.
that was kind of our commitment to them.
Right.
I don't know why I missed that before. I apologize. So I just wanted the minutes to reflect that commitment. And it was whatever they didn't utilize for the court repairs that we could allocate then in the capital budget next year for,
For that, or,
So
Or-
again, we said in the capital budget, there's 40,000 that was set aside for doing the tennis courts this year. They're not gonna do that. It's probably gonna be more like 5,000.
yeah,
Because it's gonna be real, just a quick patch, because
right.
next year's when they're gonna go ahead and
Right.
tear it up and redo it.
Yeah.
So it was 40,000 set aside. If that doesn't get spent, roll that over and then add another, whatever the bids are.
To it next year.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the plan.
That was what we discussed.
But we did slash the capital improvement budget for the bumper truck, as you know, we
Yeah.
slashed there, you know, so, right, anyway.
Yeah.
But so we'll have our meeting for the capital improvement budget,
Great.
you know, later this year, early next year, and we'll
Yeah.
count
And
that
the,
in.
and this doesn't have to be reflected in the minutes, but the only other thing to flag was, they had said they were working on a 10-year plan, and we were clear we wanted a 3-year plan for sustainability, so I
Correct.
think,
For both tennis and
Pool.
the
for
pool.
pool. Yeah.
And the other thing that we've done is we added a $25 a participant capital improvement fee to campers and folks.
To everybody, it's every household, every membership. Yeah.
No.
No, it's not just to.
Well, since she implemented it incorrectly, because it was only supposed to be for those that.
Well, but because you have people, sorry about getting into this, but there are people like us on Wednesday night, and Dave has all these other clinics, and so does, there's other clinics that go on. The women have a clinic also.
Right.
So anybody who's doing that kind of stuff, it can't be just.
Oh, you're right,
campers.
but if you and I weren't doing the clinic, we wouldn't be paying the $25.
Yeah, well, it's hard for Dave and Tracy to administer it otherwise, and so I think it's getting spread across just everybody by household, not by number of people in a
Yeah,
household, but it's by.
well, I'll have to talk to them about it, because that was the condition was, it's really, the defining thing is, do you get a reserved court or not? If you get a reserved court, then you are subject to some court of, capital, improvement, fee, every annual capital improvement fee. And we actually have an individual that will match it dollar for dollar for this year, so.
No, that's nice.
So Susan, do you feel like those changes should be incorporated in this report? Because, it's nice if they're reflected in the minutes, but just having to go back and backtrack things, it's really nice, Rob, to be consistent and have it in the report and the minutes. So whichever source you're looking at, there's not a contradictory. Because somebody can say, well, it didn't say anything about that in the report. Well, it says something about that in the minutes, unless you flesh it out, or somebody may not think to look at both. So I'm not trying to make more work for you, Randy, I'm
Well, we
just
can amend
asking
the
the question.
report, Marcy, right now. We'll
No,
make
I
the
know,
amendment. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just,
Well, and to your point, Marcy, what gets posted on the website should be the amended report.
The amended
Because there's a
report.
separate.
Well, if we vote to amend it, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
has to be.
Yeah, so that's what we
So
want to
we
do.
just need to update.
Okay,
Randy
so-
needs to update that.
I don't post the reports till after the meeting.
Right. So he'll need to go in and make changes to the report, right, that we're talking about? So what,
If you just need annual in there, I think
Well, I want to add that sentence about the capital improvements not used for 2022 will roll into 2023.
and that you want a
So
three-year
that's just
plan.
another
Yeah,
sentence
so
I
I mean,
can
I'd
add.
like,
little
I'd
bit.
like that all spelled out, so it's just crystal clear.
Could we just bring this report forward next?
Instead of.
Committee meeting?
Instead of a motion now to
Yeah.
amend, you mean?
Yeah, because it will take a few minutes to update those.
However's most efficient.
Okay,
Doesn't matter to me.
okay, I guess we can do that.
So, and this does not need to be reflected in this report. I am supportive of looking at outside residents for membership, but I don't think that is going to determine the sustainability of the pool. What will determine the sustainability of the pool, I believe, and I think this is important, is that we get more residents as members. That's the long-term
Gotta have a little something to
sustainability
drink.
of the Mariemont pool. And so just to really reiterate, in my personal opinion, not the committee's opinion, that that's going to be critical, is if this pool committee can figure out how to engage more Mariemont residents. Because we could get all the outside members we want, it's still not going to be enough to be able to sustain this. If we don't exceed, I think we're at 20%. It's a very, very low participation rate right now in the community.
Yeah.
So, in other words, the pool lives or dies with Marymount residents.
well, I think, again, the other ones can help close the gap some. I
Yeah,
don't disagree
clearly
with you that the-
opening the pool to outside membership's gonna help.
Could help, but it's not going to be the determining
think it's
factor
gonna
of
be the-
long-term sustainability.
Okay,
But I think,
Well,
okay.
especially, the additional memberships will be subject to an invitation from a current member. So to your point, if we have more current members, then we have more
Yeah,
paying
the-
guests.
The Marymount pool lives or dies, I believe, with residents choosing to sustain it, to participate in it or not.
Yeah, I agree, because I think one of the problems is that all the residents of Marymount are going to the sports club and to Terrace Park and wherever else. We need to get them,
Yeah, we need to bring them
give them
back.
an incentive to come back to Marymount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and to your, I agree with you, Susan, and to your point, whatever they do to make the pool more appealing, it just appeals to everybody, right? It's not just non-residents or residents, it's just let's make the place more appealing to get more people to want to join.
Yeah, but I think that the focus needs to be for this pool committee to engage Marymount residents first and foremost, because I just think strategically we're going to live or die there.
Okay, good point, good point. All right, so Randy, you're going to fix that? We'll bring it back next week. All right, I think that was the only report, so moving on to miscellaneous. Village offices will be closed in observance of Memorial Day, Monday, May the 30th. The Memorial Day Parade, which I'm really working to really bring back a great Memorial Day Parade, that will be Monday, May the 30th. Village offices will be closed in observance of Independence Day, Monday, July the 4th. And the budget hearing will get started Monday, July the 25th. And we're going to do that a little bit early, 5:30.
Okay.
We all good on that? Yeah, so we'll need 4 people at least in attendance, is that right?
For the budget hearing?
Yeah, to pass that? Oh, we'll need 5. Okay. So just check your calendars, make sure you're gonna be here.
Which
Well,
day?
I'll be announcing it again for the budget hearing.
Oh,
In July, it's off in July, July the 25th.
I might not
Well,
be.
it's before
I'm
the
not gonna
council
be here.
meeting,
Huh?
isn't
I'll
it?
double check.
Yeah, it's before the Monday
Before
meeting,
the- it's
Council
before the-
meeting.
Yeah, at 5:30.
so, but if
Right.
we need to change the date, let's figure it out.
And you're
Sooner
not allowed to
rather than
remote in, right?
Correct.
Okay, I am out of town on that day.
Excuse me while I send a text and ask somebody, and I can tell you.
Okay.
All right, well, just let me know next meeting. We can revise it.
All right, let's get on to these resolutions. We've got a lot to get through here.
All right, first one, resolution declaring the necessity of levying a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation for permanent improvements and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection therewith.
All right, that's the third reading. I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. Tony?
Resolution authorizing mayor to execute contract with Choice One Engineers for the purpose of submitting a grant application for work in connection with the Murray Avenue Multi-Path Trail and to declare emergency. Well, we can't do emergency.
We're not doing the emergency. That's the second reading. We will have the third reading next council.
In discussion now.
All right, a resolution for the Village of Mariemont to establish policies and procedures concerning the naming and renaming of village property.
Now, this is the one where we needed to add that language about getting out of existing naming agreements if necessary. So I had sent this, that needs to be added. We talked about this last time. Like if someone's
this-
reputation changes and we want to say, we can't have that name on this anymore.
Or if we just want to change the name too, if somebody, it could also be.
Okay, so you're suggesting here some changes that are not in the current resolution?
Right, I thought I sent these in, but I didn't see them added to the end.
I was not aware of that.
Okay.
Is that something you want me to do, or is it something you want Ed to look over?
However,
Ed should probably look over it.
all right, I've got, I can, yeah, you give that, the additions are highlighted in yellow, and I will send you the file.
Well, this is the existing resolution that we're
Yeah,
talking
I
about, the
didn't-
naming
I didn't
rights.
prepare this resolution. You want me to redo this?
Well, there's a change, some additions.
Some additions now, so,
To this one here?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Right, and the intent, Randy, is to give the village a little leeway in, if we name something, the ability to change that for,
A process.
yeah.
So I have a question about, on the grant application for the bike path. Are we gonna talk about this at all, or can I put something on record about the way that this was done? Just because, we had the emergency reading and we decided, and it failed, and the application was put in anyway. And what I was concerned with is, after talking to Mr. Hammonds at ODNR, some of the information that was given council was not accurate. And I just would like to either just put it on record that some of it was not accurate, and that I don't believe we should have proceeded with the application when we did not vote to have it read as an emergency, and we missed the deadline, basically. And I don't believe that all of the council was made aware in a timely manner that the application was going to be put through on the 15th of April.
Okay, but the application basically is proceeding, at least it's my understanding, is proceeding on a sort of a provisional basis, meaning until we actually pass this resolution, it's not actually gonna be, I guess, finalized or put through. I don't know the exact language on that.
No, and I understand that, I just
Yeah.
don't think it was done in an appropriate manner. I
Okay.
guess that's, I just wanted to be on record that I believe that.
Okay, okay,
I would second that.
okay. Tony?
Next one, all right, resolution to enter into project agreement with Kate Albert Studio LLC.
All right, that's the second reading. We all pretty much know what this is. This is for the artwork.
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering why, because like in the thing about choice one, we talk about getting reimbursed, but this one's, we're getting reimbursed too, right, from MPF? It doesn't say anything in the resolution about that.
No, it doesn't, I don't think.
And
They've already agreed to it, so, I mean,
Because I just, I thought it was good that we had that, we talked about it up front, and it was like,
It
okay,
doesn't, yeah.
doesn't say it in there.
You're right.
And then we said it in the choice one, the Marymount's gonna get, the village is gonna get reimbursed, yada, yada, and so we didn't say it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you're right, we need to add that.
It seems like we should be
I
consistent.
agree with you completely.
Okay.
Here's what I would suggest, make a motion to amend this resolution by adding the provision at the end of section A, or section 1, that says the amount to be advanced by the Village of Marymount will be reimbursed to it by MPF, is that yours?
Preservation
Okay,
Foundation.
yeah.
Yeah, just add it on. I'm not trying to stop it, just if we can add that sentence
Right.
there. 'Cause this is the
So
second.
that's a true statement, right, Randy?
yes,
Honestly, I could have thought,
Is that just because the funds that are being used, that were donated from Thomas Emery, are being taken through the
Yeah, they're
MPF,
going
or is
through
it
MPF.
because- Or is it because
hold on
MPF
a
is
minute.
paying for it out of their pocket?
no, it's coming out of our funds.
oh, that's
that we-
right, that's
that we
right.
Our kitty we have.
Okay, I just
When you say
wanted-
our kitty, but you're talking about the kitty that's over.
Yeah, well, it's centennial money,
But it's
It's
right
not,
now-
but it's not village money.
it's not village
It's-
money.
it's-
No, no,
yeah,
it's
I
not
just want to
no,
make sure,
no.
I just want to make the
They're
distinction.
501(c)(3).
They're 501(c)(3).
They are.
That's why it's there.
They are.
Right.
Okay.
MPF never voted to do that, so I just,
They never voted to do
Well,
that.
Pay for this.
Randy, I think this is what I might have asked a couple weeks ago. If they are in fact a 501(c)(3), why is the contract just not between them and Kate Albert Studios?
Because the village would own the rights to reproduce this.
Okay, all right. Gotcha.
So we're going to amend this resolution with the
Yeah,
sentence that you
Rob
just-
Bartlett just made a motion to amend this resolution by adding at the end of section 1, any funds advanced by the Village of Marymount to Kate Albert Art Studios shall be reimbursed by the Marymount Centennial Committee.
Good.
I will second.
Second. All right. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, so you'll make that, and we'll have the third reading next time.
All right, next one, to amend section 151.087, permitted obstructions in required yards.
All right, that's the first reading. We'll have a second reading next council.
All right, next one, resolution for consent for the project known as PID number 101029, county/route/section HAM signs FY 2022, systematic sign replacement general routes, and to declare emergency.
Well, no, wait a
well,
minute.
that's crystal clear.
Is this what we're waiting
Yeah,
to
that's what-
understand?
This is where we have the
So
questions
we're just
for
gonna,
Chris.
okay, this is just the first
Somebody needs
reading.
to file a motion to table that resolution.
Well, what about just having the first reading?
We'll just declare this being the first
So
reading.
no
okay,
emergency?
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I would move that we go ahead and just make this a first reading,
All right, that's fine.
continue to the next time that we get together, we have this, Chris, give us the questions.
Wait, yeah.
I'll second that.
Can
All
you
right.
say again what it is?
Say again.
No, no.
Nobody knows what it is.
It sounds
I
like a
mean, we're-
Dr. Seuss rhyme.
What it sounds like is,
He's gonna have to read that 3
Nobody
times.
knows.
It has to do with ODOT signage through Route 50.
ODOT owns
They
US
own-
50.
They
Mr.
own the
Pike.
signs, and they need authority from the municipality to go and make those changes.
In
They
broad,
require-
in
require
broad
those.
strokes, we think that's,
And I-
Gotcha.
and I
Okay.
passed it- I
But
talked
we're-
to Chris, and he said, yes, absolutely, we need to do it.
Gotcha,
So-
thank you.
okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll let it go one more
Pose
council.
our
and then-
questions to
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay.
Make sure he's here next time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next one. Resolution authorizing mayor to execute and file application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and to declare emergency.
We're removing the emergency from this, right?
No.
Oh, is this, which one's
This
this one
this
for?
is the Parks grant.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what this one was, Randy. Is this for Dogwood?
Oh, this is,
Park.
this is an
the
ODNR
Nature Work-
grant.
N-
This
Nature
is
Works.
this is Nature Works. This
Yeah,
is for,
this is the
we're gonna do
contract.
two. We're gonna do one for
Dogwood.
the, pool, and we're gonna do one to get new, baseball,
Yeah.
fence.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So which one is this, which one's this one for?
This would, I'm assuming we can use this one ordinance for both.
Okay.
Both, please clarify both. The
So
na-
we're
new-
gonna do, so ODNR, Nature Works is different than the
Okay.
trails. So ODNR is, there's less money there, but it's 80%, and they do fund, offer grants to swimming pools, and they do it to recreational facilities, including playgrounds and ball diamonds.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna write it, and a condition to that, similar to Trails Fund, is to have an ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's due on June 1st. So I think
That's why we're doing a
when we talked
non-emergency.
about, that's why we're doing a non-emergency.
Okay. Okay, so we've,
Do you want to amend this resolution, though, to say, apply, the file of the application for financial assistance in connection with the Dogwood Park project and the swimming pool?
Municipal pool, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it says Nature Works grant program. Do we need to go to that extent?
Yeah,
I think
don't know
I think we
what
should
they're
say what
funding.
what we're applying for
Okay.
specifically.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know where this money's supposed to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
I agree.
okay, so we're going to amend the resolution.
Yeah, just at the end of section 1, application for financial assistance in connection with the Dogwood Park project and the, is it a swimming pool
Municipal
project?
pool.
And the municipal pool project.
Okay, so we need a motion to do this.
Yeah, right.
So moved.
You just moved to amend it. I think Randy moved.
Second.
Rob
Second.
seconded.
Right,
All right.
for-
Everybody go around. Yeah,
2.5.
Approve the amendment. Now vote on the amended motion.
Well,
Wait.
Are we amending first or suspending first?
This amend.
well, no, hold on a minute. If we're amending this, can we proceed then with the emergency? Can this proceed?
Yeah.
Yes.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I'm just asking.
Well, we
are
just,
Let's
all we've
amend.
had
Let's-
is a
let's
first
amend- let's
reading.
amend
We're not-
first. You
We're not
amend and
really,
then-
we're just making a
let's amend first.
clarification. We're not
You
making
amend
a
it, then you go
substantive
forward with that as an
Yeah, that's what I'm
emergency.
thinking. Yeah. Okay, so we've had the motion, the second, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, now, you've had the first reading and we've amended,
For the amended ordinance, right.
and, well, now, do we have to accept that?
So now we're going to have the second reading of the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and file application with the Ohio Department
Suspend
of
the
Natural
rules on that.
Resources for the purpose of assistance with the Dogwood project, the Dogwood Park project, and the municipal swimming pool.
But you need to suspend the rules first.
I need to suspend the rules, but
So
do we need
moved.
to accept the amendment first?
Oh,
I think we need to accept the amendment.
think you just accepted the amendment, right.
But I don't know that anybody moved or second.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah.
think we did.
Okay.
I-
missed
I-
it.
I think I moved, and then,
I second.
And we had a roll call.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
that's a suspended
so the
rule.
amendment has been made.
Sorry about this.
The amendment has been made and voted
Now we
on.
need to.
So who's on first situation?
Suspend the rules.
So moved, to suspend the rules.
I
I told them not to
I need a
stay.
motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the second and the third reading, and I have it here.
Motions.
I think
So
I have
moved.
it here.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Just to be clear, what exactly are we voting for?
We're
For the pool
we're
and
voting to
park.
suspend the rules and have the second and third reading.
Okay, I'll agree.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York.
I
All
don't
right,
know how
Tony,
many-
second and third reading, please.
All right, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and file application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Do I need to say for Dogwood Park and municipal pool? And to declare emergency.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's the
all right.
second reading. We kind of already had the discussion. Any other discussion that we need? If not, maybe we have the third reading.
All right, resolution authorizing mayor to execute and file application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for Dogwood Park and a municipal pool.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Do you know what we're doing?
Yes, I know what we're doing. I just have a question for Randy. Is there going to be a point where public input is
Oh,
Like, if we
sure.
get the grant, okay.
Yeah, part of it is to get a planning,
Okay, that's what I thought, I just wanted to just double check.
Mrs. Rankin?
Good question.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, now I need a motion and a second to evoke the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, guys, gotta ask your patience here, because we've got a bunch of these to get through. Okay,
All
Tony?
right, next one, resolution approving interfund advance of funds from the general fund to other fund categories and to declare emergency.
All right, we've had the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the second and third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Could somebody explain to me why we're doing this?
We're moving money.
Yeah,
You
so
were-
earlier,
Well, I
Like-
just
like
want
the
to
street
understand what
fund.
I'm voting for, crazy, I know.
okay, so the street fund only has so much money at the beginning of the year, and then, but we already got this big PO from J.K. Muir to do all the roads. So it didn't have enough funds in there to cover the PO, so we got advance funds, and then later on, the street fund will reimburse the general fund. So it's
like my
in,
checking account.
it's like
Okay,
an in and an out. So you're going from like your savings to checking, and then checking back to savings, so something
Got
like
it,
that.
aye,
So,
thank you.
All right.
Good example.
Okay, second reading, resolution approving interfund.
Wait, hold on a minute.
We
We
still
didn't-
at aye?
I did aye.
We did-
I did
Yeah,
aye.
aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
How many clowns can we fit in this car again?
Must be somebody's birthday.
It's all the sugar.
I haven't had sugar.
Okay,
right.
we're on to the second reading here, Tony.
Okay,
think
resolution
it's
approving interfund advance of
third
funds
hour.
from the general fund to other fund categories and to declare emergency.
All right, so we've already kind of had discussion. Any additional discussion? If not, third reading, please.
Resolution approving interfund advance of funds from the general fund to other fund categories and to declare emergency.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, I need a motion and a second to evoke the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Sound like it came from the same guy. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, next one.
Hold on a minute, I need to catch up to where are we? This is,
J.K. Muir.
okay, I got you,
All right, now that we advanced the funds, we can, to accept bid of J.K. Muir Corporation for the 2022 street rehabilitation project, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
All right, I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the second and the third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, Tony, second reading, please.
All right, to accept bid of J.K. Muir Corporation for the 2022 street rehabilitation project, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
All right, any discussion? I mean, we kind of all know what this is.
Yep.
You know. Tony, third reading.
To accept bid of J.K. Muir Corporation for the 2022 street rehabilitation project, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
All right, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Mrs. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. Now I need a motion and a second to evoke the emergency clause, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Ms. Gelbaugh?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. Tell me that
All
was
right,
the last one,
Last
please.
resolution, to accept bid of Static All Pro for painting 17 streetlights within the village, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
All right, you've had the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and allow for a second and third reading.
Can I amend this one?
Of course.
Because this is highway funds. There are 12 fire hydrants on Wooster Pike.
Oh, we want to add those?
Yeah, so it's $75 a piece to paint,
17?
$75 a piece, so that's $900. Can we
How many are we-
Yeah, there's
amend
enough-
this?
There's enough funds in that, yeah.
Streetlights and
How many?
fire hydrants?
Streetlights are the 17 of the 17 we need.
Right.
There's one that's across from the or Starbucks, that's the new one that got
Yeah,
hit,
the
that
new
we're
one
not
that got hit.
painting. And we're not painting any of them in the square. The rest of them are getting painted.
Right.
But there are 12 fire hydrants that are on Wooster Pike that we could paint.
That
And
we could paint.
that are included in this?
Well, they're not
Oh,
now.
there will be now,
Oh,
if we vote on it.
Okay,
But-
Right,
everything's included.
We
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 can
got a, we got a
just-
bid for it and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, we got a bid.
yeah.
Okay.
They quoted us $75.
We're gonna be
each.
doing the prep work on it, so we got a really good bid to the guy that's gonna be doing the, streetlights. He's gonna, it'd be the same process, same painter, same
Yeah,
process.
yeah. So, or is that, is the plan to do that with the rest of the fire hydrants too, or?
Yeah, well, we wanted to do these 12 first, because we can use highway funds for these.
Yeah.
And then we can reevaluate the rest of them. There's 164 total. So the idea is to get, John rents a machine that's got brushes, and he needs a backhoe to move it. So that takes about 5 minutes. Then the fire department was gonna come behind him and tape up the threads and things like that to prep it. And then Static All Pro can come back and electrostatically paint them like that.
Yeah.
And then firemen will come back and put them back together.
Yeah, yeah, not, again, I'm just
Right.
wondering, is that the plan for all of them?
That's planned for all 164. Hopefully, we can get them all done.
Eventually,
Yeah, eventually.
not this year.
Well, yeah.
So we need a motion second to amend.
All right, a motion and a second. Are we clear about how we're amending it?
That thing, that'll hold up to, because sometimes, they gotta go and unscrew those things and take the pressure and,
Yeah.
other things, they gotta do that. Will it hold up to that? I mean, I think it's gonna be great, the static stuff on the lamppost. I'm just wondering how much wear and tear will it create if the fire hydrants has to go get
If it
tested and
will,
everything
yeah.
on a what, annual basis? I don't know how frequently they get tested.
It's a good question.
Yeah, they're tested, I believe annually, that's correct. And my understanding is y'all hold up.
I think that's the reason why we're taping up the threads,
Yeah.
Right.
so that we don't block it in painting those threads.
Right, but I mean, if it's gonna get banged around, I just don't know how, if you wanna
How
spend a
long
lot of
it'll stay
money, if
pretty.
you wanna spend a lot of money, cause you're touching that thing at least once a year, putting something on it, and
Right,
testing
right.
it and everything else versus lamppost, you don't do that. you
Well,
know?
how else would we do it?
Well, I just don't know if you wanna spend that much money on a really, really nice
Yeah.
paint job that
Just let it
may
get
get
banged
chipped
up.
and banged up because it's just touched at least once a year, if not more.
But didn't you say it was just $900 to do all of
To
them?
do
No,
the 12.
$75 each.
How durable.
To
So
do
the
each
nu-
hydrant?
It's
So that's not
fairly
that much.
durable, especially
Well,
given the
it's to
fact
do
of
the
kind of
12 on
prep work
Worcester
that they're
Pike.
gonna
It's
do
gonna be
on it.
$900.
So I would assume, Rob, that probably if there is some chipping or something like that, obviously just go back and do
Okay,
a
so
little touch-up.
Okay, so I guess this will be our test before we expand this
yeah, it's a good way to look
further,
at
or
it.
thing like that, then. I just wanna make sure that
Good call.
if we're gonna spend that kind of money, that's gonna hold up, it's gonna be durable enough to take the,
No, you're right, it's a good test.
so, okay, got it.
Well, that,
See
and
how
I'm
they
not
hold
really
up?
sure what the next option would be, other than, you and I go out there with a paintbrush.
There we go.
I mean,
We're the
and he's
third.
already got me committed to doing so much now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're,
Motion second to amend.
all right, we need a motion and a second to make this amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight,
Aye.
Ms. Gelbach,
Aye.
excuse me, Dr. Lewis, Ms. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. York. Oh,
Aye.
Okay, that'll be amended. Did I already suspend the rules? Did I suspend the rules?
I don't know.
No? All right, a motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the second and the third reading.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight,
Aye.
Ms. Gelbach, Dr.
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, second and third reading, or second reading,
All
Tony.
right, to accept bid of Static All Pro for painting 17 streetlights and 12 fire hydrants within the village, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
Okay, I think we've already discussed this. Third reading, please.
To accept bid of Static All Pro for painting 17 streetlights and 12 fire hydrants within the village, to authorize contract and to declare emergency.
All right, motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbach.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
And Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, now, we're doing this on emergency too, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. A motion and a second to evoke the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Ms. Gelbach.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. York. All right.
Aye.
We're going to paint some fire hydrants.
Yay.
Couple of ordinances here.
Couple ordinances, yeah, to amend section 37.06 of the Marymount Code of Ordinances, Tree Advisory Board.
I believe that's the second reading. We all know any questions about this? We know what they were doing here?
This is just increase the number of members and.
It was correcting an
It was
inconsistency.
inconsistent in the
Consistency.
ordinance. We'll
And it's-
increase it from 7
Upon the
to-
recommendation of the tree board, yeah,
Right.
Okay,
from 9 to 14, yep.
okay, okay. Tony?
Expertly handled by
All
the
right.
Rules and Law Committee.
To amend section 151 of the Marymount Code of Ordinances, fences and walls.
Okay, first reading, second reading, next, council.
All right, the last ordinance. To amend chapter 152 of the Marymount Code of Ordinances, rental dwellings and units.
Well, that's the first reading. I think maybe we ought to discuss that a little bit.
Which one's it?
Second reading next time?
A second reading?
No, that
talking
was the
about it some
first
more?
reading here tonight.
No, I want a second reading about it some more.
Oh, you want a second reading
Can
about
we
it?
discuss this?
Sure. Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, from, 152, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for, 152, from our perspective, it's a very reasonable ordinance, the way we've changed language. Randy said it just right, I think. We're just trying to balance everything. These guys are not happy, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Because these are the good property owners in town. The fellows that
Exactly.
show up here and they feel like we're picking on them when we don't really need to pick on them. You know, but that's the way it happens, you know? So we're gonna try to accommodate them, aren't we, Randy? But,
We're gonna, yeah.
I mean, everyone here
They're
knows
worried
what
about
the
how
issue-
we're gonna, execute
Yeah.
it, and I don't blame them. Part of me doesn't
I
blame
mean,
them.
Rod's got a plan. I mean, let's face it, this whole program of rental inspections has been essentially neglected for many, many
Oh,
years
yeah.
now.
And the
Yeah,
fa-
I was gonna
So
make that
we're
point.
just trying to get it started up and do it the right way, and they're just mad about that.
Well, and the fact
And I
that
get it, but
it has been neglected for a number of years is not a reason why we shouldn't be taking it up now.
that's exactly right,
Right,
yeah.
so.
Well, and I have a question, and sorry, I don't want to prolong the discussion. But, when we first moved here, we rented. And a lot of the people would say, well, we can't fix the windows because it's, it's historic and we
Right.
can't change it. And is there going to be like a provision in here, or can we think about it, that if someone who doesn't actually live in the property has a complaint about it? Because if you go over on Chestnut, there's like screens out of doors and kids are crawling through the door, and some of it, I mean, it's unsightly, and not trying to pick on anybody, but, can a resident that doesn't actually live in the building say, I have a problem with this because it's a mess over there? Is that something that we could think about possibly adding to this, that it doesn't have to be necessarily the person that's renting it, but it could also be someone who is having to look at it, or, something like that?
I think you could argue like a broken screen's a child safety issue.
Yeah.
But I
If
don't
there's
know if
some-
we
but-
want to actually add it to the ordinance proper.
Well, because you already have
We have things, we already have.
Yeah, there's-
ordinances,
It's a
basically.
building code violation.
Yeah.
If there's certain things that exist on a property that you can see from the outside, you can call our building commissioner and say, hey, take a look at that property over there. I don't think it's compliance with the Ohio Basic Building Code. He can look at it, then we can cite him to the mayor's court,
But what do you do, like, on the times where they do say, it's a historic area, the windows, we can't replace the windows? I mean, I remember when I had to rent, we had to put plastic in the windows because they leak so badly.
Well-
And the the owner would just say, well, I can't fix it.
Well, I can
So-
address that, because MPF is working on a source book, because those buildings are protected in the historic district. There are strict guidelines to what you can put back, okay?
But you can replace windows.
But you
It's
can
not-
replace windows, but they have to look like,
Yeah.
and, then obviously there's allowances for more modern, more efficient. So, MPF has a task force or a committee that is working on creating a guideline for the ARB, so that, and for the residents and the owners of those buildings, so they can just go to this book and say, oh, I live on Chestnut Street, these are the windows that are acceptable, boom.
Okay.
I don't think we have a way to force them to do it, but that's a different animal. But we're trying to at least have the resources in place so that it's not as onerous.
Okay.
Okay, given the lateness of the hour, I'm thinking that we'll update our task list next time.
Second, it's just her birthday, they've got kids. I've
We're
got
adjourned
cats.
8:04.
I have dogs.